Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Economic Development and Regulatory Services for today, which is June 25th. I've been joined by a quorum of the committee, including Councilmembers Cano, Fletcher, and Ellison, and we should be joined by other members shortly. We have a very brief consent agenda consisting of item 4, which is the liquor license approvals. And there's a lot of them. Also, item number 5 are also liquor licenses. They're the renewals. Item 6 are the gambling license approvals. 7 are the gambling license renewals. 8 are business license operating conditions for an innovative and small emerging business pilot. This is the Majoli, the little flower cart. Item number 9 is a contract with Employ Milwaukee for workforce development services. 10 is a contract with Ramsey County Workforce Solutions for the Metropolitan Regional Workforce Development Coordinating Services contract. Item 11 is the 2020 license fee schedule. We're setting a public hearing. We're also setting a public hearing on item number 12, which is the tobacco product shop ordinance. Item 13 is referring to staff the subject matter of dealing with rental license reinstatement requirements. Item 14 is a referral to staff also, which is the short-term rental ordinance changes. With that, I'll move the consent agenda. Are there any items anyone would like to pull for discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We'll then move to item number 1 with the appointment of the Director of Regulatory Services. I'll note we've been joined by the Mayor. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. We've also been joined by Councilmember Gordon, and we'll move right into the appointment, and I'll ask the Mayor if he'd like to say something first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to be back in your committee, and yes, I would like to speak briefly on the topic of the appointment of Ms. Kim Keller. Ms. Keller is no stranger to City Hall. She has held a variety of different positions in a variety of different departments, from a senior policy aide to 2 different council members to an assistant to the director in reg services before moving to the coordinator's office to work on business process and data analysis, and later as the results management program coordinator. She was the operations and engagement director at reg services, and most recently, of course, was the interim director of regulatory services as a department as a whole. And one, it's inspiring to see a leader like Ms. Keller come up in a way that inspires people to follow a big vision. 2, it's been really heartening to see how she's had a very tangible and clear shift in the way that the department should do business, which is to focus on people rather than simply on the building or on the inspection itself. But third, you really see how a leader is transformed when, in the case of Ms. Keller, she was kind of required to because the old department had left and she suddenly stepped into this new role. And she did it with class and style, and encountered some very difficult scenarios while bringing a whole lot of different partners together. Regulatory services is a difficult department to run, just given the variety of different stakeholders and given the variety of different aspects that you need to handle. But I've watched, and she has done the job with excellence, and I'm very proud to put her name forward, and I do ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. We'll then open the public hearing, if that's okay, on item number 1, which is the appointment by the Executive Committee, which has been forwarded to us, for Kim Keller to be appointed to the Director of Regulatory Services. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? I note that there were 3 people who have signed up in advance, and I would invite you to come up and speak now. I don't need to call out your names. You know who you are.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Matt Kondrachuk. I'm a member of Minneapolis Animal Care and Control Advisory Board and a member of Citizens for Minneapolis Animal Care. I'm here today to speak in support of Kim Keller. And the reasons why are I've been involved with the MAC board for about 4 years. Recently, we were tasked with the opportunity to do a full assessment of MAC's policies, procedures, including reporting data and all of that. And I reached out to her as interim director for some assistance. She's been fantastic, met with me after hours, seems very supportive of us doing a full transparent review. And has provided me with all the information, including some help with project management on it. I think she's been a great leader, and it's been a real pleasure working with her. So again, I wanted to just say supported her for this position.
Well, thank you for being here today, and also thank you for your service. This is one of the hardest commissions to be on, the Animal Care and Control Advisory Board. People are very emotional as it pertains to animals. I myself am too. And so thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Jay? Oh, either one. I know Jay, so I could call him by name. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Joey Dobson. I'm an attorney at Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid. We provide free legal services to help Minnesota's most vulnerable residents gain access to their basic rights of safety, shelter, food, healthcare, and education. We represent our clients in housing, family, immigration, public benefits, and other matters. Each year, our Minneapolis office represents over 3,000 low-income tenants in Hennepin County housing cases. In a majority of our cases, our clients report serious problems with the conditions of their rental property, with their homes. We work to enforce our clients' rights to live in healthy, safe, code-compliant rental housing. Because of the troublingly tight rental market right now, and other barriers that our clients face to holding their landlords accountable in some cases, many of the people we represent live in homes that are infested with bed bugs, rodents. They have mold and lead hazards, dangerous temperature regulation that can trigger life-threatening health emergencies. The Housing and Fire Inspections Division of the city's Regulatory Services Department has a critical role to play in keeping our neighbors in healthy, safe homes. We appreciate the important work that the city staff do to regulate rental licensing and enforcing the Housing Maintenance Code. We're particularly encouraged at this time by the positive direction that the department is going. In recent months, we've worked closely with department leadership and staff to better meet the needs of tenants living in substandard housing. A few examples just briefly of recent developments that have us, our office particularly encouraged about this trajectory that the department is going include the passage of the Renter First policy, which I thank this council for supporting, active engagement from the department in conversations trying to solve our city's eviction crisis and the racially disparate impact of this crisis through the Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, active enforcement of the Housing Maintenance Code, participation in conversations prioritizing the code violations that affect the health and safety of our clients. And just briefly, I'd like to share a recent example, if I may. A few Fridays ago, leading into a weekend where, with 90-degree days forecast, a tenant in a downtown building here downtown called us, letting them know that their air conditioning wasn't working in their building. And it was the kind of building downtown where the windows don't open. A neighbor of hers had been taken away in an ambulance due to a heat stroke. The client clocked her unit's temperature at 90 degrees around 9 a.m. on that Friday morning. We notified the Housing Inspections Division that afternoon, and the interim director, Housing Inspections Director, Fire Inspection staff took immediate action to make sure that that air conditioning problem got fixed that evening, a Friday evening. Thanks to that prompt response of this department, 22 households were kept safe on that dangerously hot weekend. So I've had the pleasure of meeting with Interim Director Keller on a number of occasions, and I'm encouraged and inspired by her approach to leadership. From what I've seen, she's thoughtful, creative problem solver, a leader who builds relationships and commands respect, and most importantly for our work, clearly prioritize, as the mayor mentioned, the lived experience of the tenants living in rental properties here in Minneapolis. Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid looks forward to continuing collaboration with Ms. Keller, and we expect her leadership to continue benefiting the well-being of Minneapolis residents. Thank you.
Mr. Strobel, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Goodman, members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak today. Happy to be back in Minneapolis City Hall to support the nomination of Ms. Kim Keller for the Director of Regulatory Services. My name, as you mentioned, is Jay Strobel. I'm currently the City Manager of Brooklyn Park, but previously to that worked for the City of Minneapolis for 10 years between 2005 and 2015. Largely in the City Coordinator's office, and the last 3+ years serving as the Deputy City Coordinator. While Deputy City Coordinator, I also served as the Interim Director of Regulatory Services for 9 months, following Greg Dobson before Nuria Rivera-Vandermeide was hired as the Director. I first met Ms. Keller when she was a policy aide for Councilmember Ralph Remington back in 2006, and then directly worked on a daily basis with Ms. Keller while I was the Director of Regulatory Services, and then later when she joined the City Coordinator's office. In my opinion, there are 3 critical attributes to be successful in the role of Director of Regulatory Services, all 3 of which Ms. Keller possesses. First, the ability to understand and navigate the politics within City Hall and the broader Minneapolis community. Ms. Keller's 13-year career in Minneapolis, and specifically in her roles as policy aide with Councilmember Remington, her operations and engagement director position in regulatory services, and now serving as interim director of regulatory services since last November. All 3 of those roles have prepared her to successfully form the partnerships both within and outside of City Hall to advance policy reforms and make critical programmatic changes. Second, having the skills, knowledge, and temperament to professionally manage an organization of nearly 200 employees and a budget of nearly $25 million. Ms. Keller's experience as the interim director and operations director of regulatory services, as well as her work supporting all city departments' management efforts while in the coordinator's office, has prepared her well for continuing to apply these skills as the permanent director of regulatory services. Being a regulatory agency, the director is often faced with competing interests. But Ms. Keller has demonstrated the nimbleness to operationalize key city goals such as addressing equity and improving operations and policies. And finally, third, while in a much better place today, this department has had a history of being in a very challenging work environment for its employees. Ms. Keller has been instrumental in working with me, Ms. Rivera-Vandermeide, and Mr. Schuckman, and now as the leader of the organization to develop a supportive and positive workplace environment for the employees. The leader of this organization sets the tone for the organization, and Ms. Keller is the perfect fit for regulatory services to form that important bond between leader and employee that is most likely to yield excellence in service, extraordinary results for the community, and a great workplace culture. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I enthusiastically support the appointment of Ms. Keller to be the next Director of Regulatory Services. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and for coming down today. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Anyone? Eric, welcome.
Chair Goodman, council members, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for the time. My name is Eric Gustafson. I'm a program officer with the Family Housing Fund. I'm here to speak in support of the mayor's nomination of Kim Keller to lead regulatory services. Today's Metro section is another reminder of the challenges facing a majority renter city in ensuring that all of our rental homes are healthy and safe. The payout to tenants is worthy of celebration, but the lawsuit and organizing behind it serve to illustrate the limited capacity of city government to keep tabs on 25,000 licensed rental homes and the need for a regulatory services director that collaborates internally and externally to accomplish more with finite resources. Kim's predecessor worked with the Minneapolis Health Department, Legal Aid, Family Housing Fund, and others to invest in new renter-centered approaches to rental housing inspections, and Kim has been working with an even larger group of stakeholders on a consultant-led redesign of the inspection system with recommendations due later this year. The Council's adoption of a renter-first policy is another step in the right direction. That policy puts a spotlight exactly where impacted renters like Vanessa Del Campo and Chloe Jackson and Natasha Villanueva say it is needed, helping our most vulnerable renters to protect themselves and their children from the mold, lead-based paint, infestations, radon, and substandard management that is present in too many rental homes and neighborhoods in Minneapolis. The National Healthy Housing Standard opens by talking about how the separation of public health and housing has challenged the nation's ability to mount a successful campaign to improve the quality of housing in neighborhoods. Kim has been at the center of a collaborative effort with the Minneapolis Health Department, Legal Aid, Family Housing Fund, and others to implement a new approach that makes all of our housing inspectors healthy housing inspectors. On the landlord side of the equation, we're talking to Kim and the Multi-Housing Association and Housing Link and others about a large group of what we see as under-supported small owners of 25 or fewer units who want to do a better job on management, maintenance, and fair housing, but need more training and ongoing support and ways that we can collaborate to make that happen. So I'm here to support Kim's candidacy because Kim has the experience, vision, and collaborative leadership needed to make the sort of bold structural change that will truly implement the City Council's vision for a city government that puts renters first.
Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and see if anyone on the panel has anything they'd like to say. Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to speak in support of Kim Keller. When I first got into office, prior to Kim taking over the interim position, she was still very involved in the very complicated handling of the Malcolm Khan situation. And in that situation, we were trying to figure out how do we make sure that we are doing right by tenants and not just displacing them, while also making sure that we're holding landlords accountable. I think that's what it means to have a people-centered approach that isn't just structure-centered, right? I think that Kim has that spirit. I also had a lot of it was very good to collaborate with Kim on the renter first policy, and I've also seen how Interim Director Keller collaborates and props up the work of her staff, and I think it's really important. A lot of the work, a lot of the language, and a lot of the spirit that came from the Renter First policy came out of work that Reg Services was already doing with the Hearing Tenant Voices project, and so I just wanted to speak in support and highlight those ways in which I think Interim Director Keller has been really collaborative with the council. So thank you.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. I also want to speak in support. I've had a very good experience working with Kim Keller, and I think that this is a position that's really challenging. It's one that really needs to be done fairly and steadily and compassionately, and I think setting the tone for our city to really, in a lot of cases, this is the interaction somebody has with our city, and it's how they decide whether they're having a good or a bad experience, or whether they think our city treats them fairly. And I have seen some very good progress in this department. It feels like particularly some tenants that have had some good interactions where they've gotten some help, and I've really appreciated that. And we have some real challenges in front of us, so thanks for being ready to do it. We have to regulate stuff that we didn't even know existed a year or two ago, and we're having to figure it out as we go, and I'm looking forward to working with you on all of that.
So seeing no further comments, I'm going to move approval. I just want to make a couple of comments myself. Try not to get emotional about it. I've worked with you, Kim, for more than 10 years. And I guess what I want to say about today for you is I'm just so proud of you, because you represent for a lot of women in the city what it means to work up through the system and make it to the top. And I think that's hugely important. There isn't anyone outside the system who could do this job better than you. And I am really excited for you, because I think that you represent what this council stands for as it pertains to putting people first. I have worked with 6 directors of regulatory service. I counted them while I was sitting here over the time that I've been here, and we have moved from a regulator approach towards a people approach. And I think your appointment today is the culmination of that work, to move towards someone who works both internally and empowers the people they work with, but also works externally to be able to bring people in, to understand what the city needs to face, and to ask them to participate with you in those solutions. You are a change agent, you are results-oriented, you are transparent, you are a great pick for this position, and most of all, I am honored to be able to work with you. We have not had it, just to be fair, we did not have a chance to talk about this in advance. She never brought it up to me during this process. As the chair, this is the person, other than Mr. Frank, that I would work with the most. And I really feel super positive about the city because of this appointment. I'm proud for the city that the mayor appointed you, and proud to be able to chair this meeting today in recognition of the kind of leader that you will be, the kind of leader that this council is looking for on these very important issues. Congratulations to you. Are there further comments or questions? We're going to take a vote, and then we're going to ask Ms. Keller if she wants to say something, if that's okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimously approved, and we'd ask Ms. Keller to come say a few words. I know it's a little different than all of the other reports that you make in front of the committee, but I'm sure everyone in the room or anyone watching might want to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Mayor Fry, thank you for this trust and this opportunity. I'm honored, I'm humbled. Madam Chair, you made me tear up a little bit. Committee members, thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. I am proud to work in regulatory services with staff who are engaged in and committed to their work, to each other, to the people they serve. As you know, through some of the testimony today, I started my journey in the city as a council aide. I had been doing restorative justice work and was recruited to move from the private sector, the nonprofit sector, into the public sector. And I knew I was hooked when your predecessors and you, Madam Chair, and co-authored by you, Councilmember Gordon, closed a loophole that had allowed problem landlords to financially benefit by not providing heat in the winter. Remember that? I worked doggedly on that change. And the fulfillment that I felt knowing that my actions were going to lead to safer conditions for precariously housed residents told me that public service was to be my life's vocation. This memory has been with me often over these past several months, and I find it full circle to have the privilege of leading the department that even a decade ago I knew was a critical instrument for equity and safety. The work of regulatory services is often private and sensitive in nature. We are in people's homes. We are examining their cars. We're talking about their pets and their businesses. The work has not changed, but how we do it has. When I first joined the department in 2012, it felt like a very different place than it does today. The department had weathered leadership challenges, and its focus was centered on enforcement. Returning in 2016, I could feel the shift culturally and through an organizational focus on education. And today I stand before you ready to continue this arc toward equity with an intentional emphasis on engagement. This doesn't mean that we don't still enforce or that we don't still educate. It means that we have all three strategies at our disposal and we can apply the appropriate strategy to the appropriate situation. My vision for regulatory services is fourfold. First, to have a code that is reflective of our values and puts the needs and safety of people and pets first. Second, to organize our work in ways that are both efficient and effective, with data-informed and proactive programming. Third, to have well-established pathways for team members to develop and to advance. And finally, to ensure that our staff are reflective of our communities and are fully prepared to engage. Great progress has been made on all of these goals in the past months through policy changes, active studies that you've heard about on multiple of our divisions, our career pathways programming, and every single regulatory services employee completing a cultural agility development plan as part of their performance review. These accomplishments and the ones that will follow build upon past work and past successes so that we are fully prioritizing safety, health, and dignity in our work. I'm proud to have made my way through the city over these past years, utilizing both career ladders and lattices as I've gone and prepared myself to lead. With your support, that of regulatory services, excellent leadership and staff teams, some of you who are here with me today, and our external partners, we will be able to achieve this vision and continue this bend toward equity that we're on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that, and we'll then move on to the two other public hearing items on our agenda today, starting with item number 2, which is Gray's Provisions and Libations. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Michelle Hervieux, and I'm a lead license inspector assigned to the 1st Precinct. I'm presenting an application from Gray's Provisions and Libations owned by FWD Gray's LLC in the absence of Area Inspector Christina Steester. Gray's Provisions and Libations is located at 520 4th Street North in the 3rd Ward. The applicant is requesting an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales and limited entertainment license. They have applied for a 2 a.m. license and are requesting the following hours: Sunday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to midnight, inside and outside, and they'll have the sound off outside at 11 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. inside, and outside, they'll have 1 a.m. closure for the ground level patio and midnight for the second level patio. They have indoor seating for 172 patrons and outdoor seating for 164 patrons total. On June 4th, 2019, 55 public hearing notices were sent to residents and property owners within 450 feet of the premises. Multi-unit buildings were posted. Notices were also sent to the North Loop Neighborhood Association, the Warehouse District Business Association, and Councilmember Fletcher. We have received 14 comments from the community. One of the concerns was that live entertainment would be held in the outdoor patio until 2 a.m. Each concern was responded to by the area inspector, Christina Steester, explaining the restriction on live entertainment on outdoor patios. It's not allowed. And the other concern is addressed by the community, or the other concern addressed by the community was the proposed hours of operation. The licensee has been made aware of the surrounding community's concerns and is willing to address those concerns today. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales and limited entertainment for FWD Grace LLC, doing business as Gray's Provisions and Libations.
Thank you, Ms. Harvitt, for your report. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 2, which is an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales and limited entertainment for Gray's Provisions. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step up and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm David OHara. I'm at 345 6th Avenue North. I'm in Bookman Stack, so I look directly upon Gray's. I'm glad that they've adjusted their hours. However, I still think that they are later than they should be. If you look at the places in the immediate area, such as Modest and First Draft and Darby's, nobody is open later than 1 a.m., even on the weekend. And most places, Monday through Thursday, are closing at 11 p.m. or no later than midnight. And so I ask that they consider closing at 11 p.m. During the week and being open no later than 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Hi, come on up.
My name's Rick Holloman. I live at 525 North 3rd Street. I lived down in North Loop for 15 years. I've seen a lot of changes, the difference that the baseball field made, and there have been some concerns in the area, but also is part of the reason I enjoy the North Loop. I did also do some research on the areas around us. Cuzzies, for example, is open till 1 o'clock. The Loop is open till 2. Smack Shack is only open till 1 on Fridays and Saturdays. The rest of the time it's midnight. Darby's 11:30 with 12 on the weekends. And First Draft closes at 10, and that's right across the street. There gets to be a lot of, especially in Washington, a lot of congestion, and I know you're fixing the streets down there to help with the pedestrians, that's good, but I really don't see it necessary these people want to be open until 2 a.m. I don't see the reason behind it. I have a feeling they might even not just change their hours on their own, but I'd rather have you guys consider that now than have to deal with as a neighbor and the 200 people live within a block. of this establishment. So that's all I had to say.
Thanks. Thank you, Rick, for being here. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick Kreiser, 345 6th Avenue North. I am in Bookman Stacks as well. For full disclosure, I'm a Public Works member, so I know most of these members very well. Councilmember Fletcher, thank you. I am on the board of the Bookman Stacks Association and on the board of the Bookman Master Association, which includes the lofts, the stacks, and the commercial property. So I've been in this process since day one when the developer came to us to pitch his idea. I'm all in favor of this development. We've had a certain number of issues based on the initial site plan approval, changes that have been made that have caused some consternation with us that we were maybe not told of all of the plans coming up front. We've had the garbage thing from the original site plan moved to the back of the building, which I look directly at. I'm 110 feet from building to building, so it's very close. Part of their application here asks for a loading zone, which parking in the North Loop is very difficult, so there's going to be some lost parking for them to just be able to get their trash and deliveries in the area. I think the biggest part here now, and again, I've gone to bat for him a couple times with some actually door knocking to get petitions signed to change our ordinance to have them move some of the stuff onto the property. Again, I don't think everything has been always up front on exactly what the plan was. We never heard 2 a.m. More than a year ago when they came to us. So literally, and I don't know if this it's a little difficult to see. So literally in our graphics thing, my condo is right here. And again, right to the back of their building is 110 feet. They do have a wraparound above ground patio. They also have patio down below under the stairways that will have not maybe the live music or anything at night, but the later some of these establishments stay open, the crowd gets a little rowdier and stuff. This is literally 100 feet from my bedroom window. I like the nightlife. That's why I moved downtown. I work downtown. I love this place. But to be expected to have to listen to the people on that patio at 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, again, I won't go through all the other things. I did my research too on all the other bars and restaurants in the area. None of them stay open that late. I know a lot of them on Washington do. It's a little bit livelier there. I originally moved downtown. I lived on Washington, and that was one of the things that get me off a little bit. This is a little bit more residential. It's still in the North Loop, a very vibrant area. I want this project to go through. I know it's going to go through. I just think we have to take into the consideration there's a total of about 110 units in these two buildings. I can hear Darby's music at night, but they're done at 10. I can hear Shut Up and Rap at Modest through the building, but they're done at 10. Fulton, I hear that music. They're done pretty early. I don't want anything past 10 o'clock that's out there. And again, I think the music and stuff you can regulate pretty good. It's just the activity that's going to go on that patio above and below grade, or at grade and above, is going to be very disruptive to a large number of people.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Perhaps you could come up and address some of these concerns. Please introduce yourself and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Thanks for the time, everybody. My name is Bobby Rutter. I am not the developer, but the operator of the facility, Grace. So first, what we set out to accomplish with this project briefly was to build a space that housed who we view as up-and-coming chefs who can't necessarily afford to go brick and mortar by themselves, or they're limited in what they can do because of the expense of the food industry. So we designed the facility around 6 chefs and a cafe and a workspace. As far as the bar area and the seating within it and the outdoor seating, I also feel with, craft cocktails and the like dynamic beer scene that you guys have in Minneapolis, that's also a layer of what we view as food and beverage of F&B. And so when we design the facility, will this show? This is a picture I took earlier today, actually, and obviously we did a ground-up build, and so we were cognizant of the people in the area, and so we kind of designed everything to face away from the lofts and more gravitating in this direction. And I've had the opportunity in my time here to meet with people and hopefully work towards a concession that makes everybody happy. We own and operate 14 different places, Breckenridge, Colorado. We're doing a project in Chicago and Columbus, Cleveland. And nobody's met me, so I don't expect anybody to just trust me blindly. But we've been an asset to the community everywhere we've went. Because our philosophy is if we don't have the support of the community in our various projects, we're not going to survive long term. And so, this is why I flew in for this meeting, because I felt it was important to meet with people individually and tell them, what our philosophy were, who we were, and kind of what our plans were. And so our proposal was outlined. The theory behind staying open later on Friday and Saturday is that we think we have a great program of drinks and cocktails that is a benefit to the neighborhood. And I have no problem with the concessions that we made about the patio and the sound and noise off. Concessions that we're willing to make for the good of the neighborhood and frankly to the detriment of the business. But we feel like we want to provide value to everybody within the immediate facility. So thanks everybody for your time. Any questions, I would be happy to field them.
So could you just outline what the concessions are?
Yeah, we originally, I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication. We never intended to be open till 2 o'clock on Sunday through Thursday. I think that was communicated, but as soon as we heard that, we shot an email out outlining our during the week hours.
So what are they?
They are Sunday through Thursday, open till midnight, outdoor closes at 11.
And on the weekends?
Friday and Saturday, open till 2, closing the upstairs patio at 12, closing the downstairs green area at 1, with sound off at 11.
So it's entirely within the realm of possibility that there could be 50, 60, 70 people outside at 1 in the morning on an outdoor patio.
On the green area.
Outside.
Correct.
100 feet from the residence. You can see why they don't like that.
I can see that. My comment to that would be that we have about 27 feet of ceiling height between them and the exterior of our building, and we're talking about this area over here, not facing the lofts at all. So what we face is a commercial parking lot going this direction, and so we designed thinking that knowing that we did not want to disturb anybody, and so that's why we designed it that way.
What's the occupancy for the upstairs patio?
I don't know the individual occupancies. There's 100.
Ms. Harvett, can you tell me what the occupancy limit would be for the outdoor patio? Well, we're going to know the answer to that.
Are you talking about the second floor or the green space?
I'll get to the green space next.
Okay.
I mean, I live in Bryn Mawr, and I could hear music from Pride, and I live 2.5 miles away. Noise echoes all through downtown, and to suggest that you don't face the residential building, you're doing that so you can have the beautiful views downtown, not because you want to be away from the residents. So I don't see what I'm sorry, I'm on the council member's going to hit me under the table, but I don't understand what the concession is exactly. If no one else is open past 10, I don't understand why you could justify having people outside at midnight, 1 in the morning.
For the exterior.
To answer the question, 62.
Okay. Is the occupancy on the top?
Yes.
And then the occupancy in the green space?
64.
Okay. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. So this is something we've gotten a lot of feedback about, and we've been kind of talking to, and I think probably rather than saying that we came up with something that would make everybody happy, I think we came up with something that doesn't make anybody quite as happy as they want to be, which is actually probably means we're balancing this in the right way. I think as everybody who commented noted, there's this tension between this being a vibrant downtown neighborhood and between it being a residential neighborhood, and it's kind of right on the border of those things. And so what makes sense to me is in looking at the upstairs, there's a portion of the upstairs where there's going to be sort of an unabated path for sound to travel, and sort of a direct view of the residential, and it makes sense to close that earlier, right? So we talked about closing that at midnight, which was kind of the consensus number from a lot of the public comments about what they thought was appropriate on weekends. And then the compromise that the restaurant asked for was can we do 1 o'clock on the first floor where there's a 2-story building in between them and the residential to block at least the direct sound a little bit. Of course, things do echo, and there's a lot of different buildings all around there. A lot of the buildings, a lot of the businesses in the area are licensed to stay open much later than they do. And they actually could change that at some point, right? So part of the conversation we have in licensing is about what's the maximum that's allowed. I think this is going to be a very interesting experiment, because by the time they get open, it's going to be late August. We're going to be talking about probably 3 or 4 weeks of outside activity. This is Minnesota, right? So we're not going to have a long time for this first round of experiment. And what they committed to is both meeting with the residents of the Bookman, and I'll commit to being part of that process, and let's revisit this once we've had a chance to see it. But we're going to know a few things after 3 or 4 weeks. What we're going to know is how loud is it, and what kind of crowd does that represent. They're going to know a lot more about how late do people actually want to be out in the North Loop, and is there a reason all these other businesses are closing earlier, and do we even need to fight about this, or can we just reduce our hours even further? And I think that's an open question. If I was going to make a bet, I think that they're probably overestimating the midnight to 2 a.m. Business, and so that's sort of what we're landing on here, which is a bit of a compromise for everybody. Nobody's getting quite everything that they want, but I think it's going to give us an opportunity to see how this business operates. They know that they're kind of under a microscope, and we're going to be watching very closely, and we'll look at making adjustments over the winter for the next summer, either direction. It may be that people find out, hey, this is great, this is kind of fun, and we don't hear it at all, and it's not bothering us, and so let's go ahead and give them the full thing they're asking for. And it may be that people say, gosh, this is really annoying, and we'd really support this a lot more if it was earlier, and let's have that conversation. But I think this feels like a compromise that gets us where we need to go for a business that in general people are very supportive of. The concept overall of this kind of multiple restaurants coming in and all these great food options, I think people really, really like. So let's keep working on figuring out the hours overall, and work with the compromise that we've got for today. So I appreciate you working with us, and I appreciate you continuing to work with us once you've gotten open and we can really see what we're talking about.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Hang on, this is a public hearing, so I haven't closed the public hearing yet. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Is there anyone else? Do you have one tiny thing?
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Just to further thing, I'm not sure where Michelle came up with the 62 numbers on the thing here, just to know, so you make a decision with the right information. It states here maximum capacity of the exterior, not just seating, capacity is 327. That's a lot more than 62. Total seating, 336. Interior 172 and exterior 164. So those numbers are quite a bit larger than that was stated earlier for capacity.
Ms. Harvick, can you explain that? How did you come up with 62 and someone else came up with 300?
Thank you, Council Chair.
Madam Chair, council members, I'm looking at the diagram supplied by the applicant, and the diagram has an exterior seating amount for the first level and the second level. The first level is listed at 102 for seating on this diagram, and the second level is listed for 62, and that's for the actual number of seats. I think the number Mr. Kreiser is reporting is regarding the amount that could be the complete occupant load with people standing along the seated areas.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fletcher.
I'll move approval of this item.
Approval of item number 2 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll then move to item number 3. Ms. Harvett?
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I am Michelle Hervieux. I'm a lead license inspector assigned to the first precinct. I'm presenting an application from Bacon Social House owned by Bacon Restaurant Denver, LLC, in the absence of Area Inspector Christina Steester. Bacon Social House is located at 700 3rd Street South in the 3rd Ward. The applicant is requesting an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales and general entertainment license. Their hours of operation will be Sunday through Saturday, 6:30 a.m. until 11 p.m. They have seating for 128 patrons. On June 4th, 62 public hearing notices were sent to residents and property owners within 450 feet of the premises. Multi-unit buildings were posted. Notices were also sent to the Downtown East Neighborhood Organization, the Easttown Business Partnership, and Councilmember Fletcher. We have received one comment from the community, and that comment was in support. Bacon Social House is located on the first floor of the historic Thresher Square building, and although inside the Canopy by Hilton Hotel, it is licensed separately from the hotel. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of this license for Bacon Restaurant Denver, LLC, doing business as Bacon Social House.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 3. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? There must be. Who's the owner? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, City Council members. My name is Kayla Brennan. I'm an attorney with the McCran Shea Law Firm, and I'm local counsel for the applicant. With me is Michael Dasso, who is the general manager, and we are certainly interested in answering any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Mr. Dasso, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd be happy to speak about the...
Please, come on up to the front. Please do.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. My name is Michael Dasso, and I was relocated here to open this restaurant. We are a 128-seat restaurant, basically focused mostly on brunch, but we will be serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Full liquor license is what we are requesting. I don't imagine that we'll be in utilization of the entertainment license, although I would see that we'd like to have that given to us just in case we do host any large parties. Any other information that you'd like, I'd be happy to provide to you.
All right, thank you for being here today.
Sure,
Thanks
thank
for your
you.
testimony. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm happy to move approval.
Approval of item number 3 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to our last item, which is the 3 Minneapolis Pathways grant agreements. I don't know who is speaking on this. We thought we'd just highlight the good things that are happening here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members, for having us up here today. I'd like to give a brief overview, and then we also have representatives from 3 of our outstanding partner agencies who are going to talk about some of the programs that are up for approval this round. Just again, very briefly to provide a little context, career pathways are typically programs that we run with our community nonprofits to reduce disparities in income and employment, and prepare job seekers for in-demand careers, typically composed of technical skills, support services, and I kind of mentioned both of those, sorry. And kind of key partners in those are job seekers who are looking for some kind of career advancement, new opportunities, our community partners, education institutions, and employers, which is a very critical one. We have a number of career pathways going on right now. Some of these are current and ongoing, some have been historical and come back. We've been primarily active in healthcare, as you heard of our health hire presentation before. And lately we've been very active in transportation, and then we've got a few other programs today. Currently, we have 13 programs that have been funded through the Minneapolis Pathways Fund. 5 of these have started and are underway. Another 4 are slated to start very soon, and 4 more are coming up, I believe, also in probably July, August as well. So this has really been a little bit of a slow start, but really gaining momentum, and now we've got a lot of programs that are really rolling. A couple of very quick highlights. Accessibility. As one of our early providers, they have enrolled 81 people in their warehouse forklift program. 79 have been placed with accessibility, which is kind of a transitional employment program. 26 have already moved on to employment with private industry with an average wage of 14. And one of the stats that I thought was worth highlighting was 80% of their clients were considered high risk of reoffending. And so this is just, I think, shows the opportunity that this provides to make that transition. Goodwill Easter Seals is expanding an automotive program into Minneapolis, and they have really kind of established roots in this area. They've been working with 800 West Broadway, which is one of our strong community centers, to get the word about their program, and they're currently enrolling. And then the Minneapolis Transportation Pathway is a collaborative that's between 3 nonprofit organizations in the Minnesota Trucking Association, with a real emphasis from the Trucking Association on retention, which has always been a barrier to CDL programs. And they've been doing a fantastic job of working with their company partners to provide mentorship, sponsorship, and help with that. So I want to keep that very brief, so sorry for rushing. But I would like to introduce 3 of our providers. So Julie Brecky is the Executive Director with Hired, and I'd like to let her talk about their manufacturing program.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Thanks for being here, Julie.
Yes, you're welcome, and council members, thank you so much. So I'm the Executive Director of Hired, multi-service workforce development nonprofit in the Twin Cities. Last year we placed about 2,500 individuals in jobs, and I'm really happy to say that we've been partnering with the city on 2 existing career pathways. One, the 911 telecommunications pathway, as well as part of the Health Hire Initiative in Medical Call Center. And just as a bit of a scope, I think in the workforce development arena, career pathways has been a new model that's been actually well tested over the last 5 years. We know that it's a model that works, and it's actually wonderful in helping under and unemployed individuals and people with barriers actually get their foot in the door with an employer in a living wage job that provides medical benefits and career laddering opportunities. So we see that the city of Minneapolis's investment in this arena is fantastic. The proposal that we have in front of the council and the Career Pathway Committee is in the manufacturing arena. Actually, Hired has been doing career pathway programs in manufacturing since 2004. This is a new initiative, actually, with several employers, actually 3, Bokers and Westrock and Liberty Carton, that are really experiencing a challenge in developing their talent pipeline, as well as keeping their entry-level employers or employees after they've been hired. So the wraparound support services that we provide are essential to that. But importantly, we're partnering with employers to create a curriculum that prepares people for a specific job, and again, a living wage job with medical benefits and a chance to career ladder. We're happy to be partnering with MNRTP, which is a provider in Wisconsin that's expanding to Minnesota. They have a pre-apprenticeship program. So again, we're looking at getting a foot in the door and moving forward. Actually, Career Pathways and Hired are really interested in addressing the region's 2 most pressing issues, current and projected workforce shortage, and the economic inequities and disparities in our workforce. Presently, about 70% of the people we're working with are people of color, and we don't see a deviation from that in the manufacturing pathway. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. and for the opportunity to propose and partner with the talented staff of MATP. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Julie. And then next we have Sheila Howard.
Ms. Howard, welcome.
Thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Sheila Howard. I'm the Director of Career Services at Jewish Family and Children's Service of Minneapolis. JFCS has served people of all backgrounds for the past 109 years. One of our programs in career services, IT Pathways, began in 2013 with the goal of helping people with the barriers to obtain employment and skills and credentials necessary to begin a career in IT. And also has a goal of diversifying the IT workforce by emphasizing recruitment of women and people of color. The great thing about IT careers is that IT workers are needed by just about every employer out there, and those employers reward knowledge and experience over quickly outdated college degrees. It is realistic for someone with a high school diploma and some technical training to start a career that provides family-sustaining wages and continues with a strong growth over time. Since 2013, we have assisted over 700 participants in IT Pathways, and last year the average starting wage of those who completed the program was over $24 an hour. We are very excited and thankful to be part of the recipients for the Minneapolis Pathways Fund. This funding will be used in a new partnership with National Able's IT Career Lab to add a new training option for our participants. In the 10-week program with IT Career Lab, participants will receive training and exam vouchers for 2 industry-recognized credentials, certifications from Microsoft and Cisco. This curriculum was developed with input from 7 area employers who identified the key technical and soft skills necessary to be successful in their entry-level positions. In addition, in this partnership, employers Bunya Systems and Cadence Technologies will be offering selected students 12-week-long paid on-the-job training opportunities, which can conclude with offers for permanent employment. National Able is also providing an IT account manager who is highly experienced in IT recruiting and job placement and will partner with JFCS staff to assist graduates in obtaining long-term employment in the industry. On behalf of the staff and management at JFCS and the Minneapolis residents we would like to serve, thank you for your continued support. We look forward to working with the City of Minneapolis to help residents with their exciting new IT careers.
Thank you for being here today.
And then finally we have Wendy Larson from Twin Cities Rise. Thank you.
Ms. Larson, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members, and thank you for having me, and thank you, Michael, for the invitation to come and present. So I'm Wendy Larson. I'm the grants manager at Twin Cities Rise. Our mission is to empower lives through personal empowerment, career training, and meaningful employment. Twin Cities Rise is incredibly grateful to the City of Minneapolis for its support of our customer service and call center career pathways training program. Our 4-week, 52-hour customer service and call center training, created in partnership with employers such as Ecolab and Target, focuses on the knowledge and skills participants need to excel in any customer service environment, but especially in the call center roles that are most in demand by these employer partners. Participants who complete the program and earn their certificates learn call center principles and expectations, call center terminology, customer service applications, and communication strategies specific to the call center environment, positioning them to gain good jobs with a living wage and opportunities for advancement. We're most excited about this grant from the City of Minneapolis, that it not only helps TCR prepare participants for success in a call center role, but also provides additional resources for participants, supports, and navigation of support services in the community in collaboration with our community partners. Given the low unemployment rate now that we're experiencing in the Twin Cities, we've seen a trend where many of the individuals with lower barriers to employment are able to find a job, however temporary those jobs might be, resulting in a participant pool with significantly more and higher barriers to employment than we've seen in the past. The funding of a resource navigator position through this grant, in addition to programmatic expenses for the call center training, will help TCR to most effectively serve this participant population and best position them for success in their careers and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Does the committee have any questions for anyone, staff, or those organizations that are going to be doing this work on our behalf? Councilmember Ellison.
I don't so much have a question, just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. I think that as somebody who only has a high school diploma, I think this job falls under customer service, but I think it's really important that folks not feel limited in their ability to make a living, to support their families, to support themselves, or feel limited in what they're able to accomplish as they go forward and as they pass through your program. So I want to thank you all for doing that on the ground work, getting people employed, and not just employed, but well on their way to earning a living. I'll actually, I know that there's other comments, but I'll actually move approval of this item as well.
Great. Councilmember Gordon.
Well, I'm certainly going to approve the item. I guess I had a question, and it had to do with the racial employment gap and the disparities. And I think that we've made a little bit of progress on that, but, we're famous for having the greatest disparities in the nation in that area. And I'm just curious if anybody thinks that we've figured out how to make some progress and headway with that. I will note that the kind of services you all are providing, I consider to be key to how we're going to address those things, and I really appreciate that. Do you think we're making progress? And what could we do as a city to help make more progress more quickly?
So perhaps we'll just ask Julie to come up. Hired, all of these organizations are old organizations that have been working through various demographic challenges in employment for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Hired in particular has had, like RISE and JFCS, has a long history of working with communities of color. So I'm actually interested in your answer too. Do you think we're making any progress? I think that was a great question, Councilmember Gordon.
It is a great question, and I certainly can't speak on behalf of the entire workforce arena, but I think we are. I mean, what we're doing is you probably noticed there are a lot more culturally based nonprofits that have been founded by communities, which is a big deal. A lot of established organizations are collaborating and learning from those organizations as well as building capacity. I know that presently we're ranked 43rd in the nation for the largest disparities gap between people of color and white employees, and none of us are satisfied with that. I think a few years ago we used to be like 48 or something, so that's progress. We have more room to grow.
This is just to clarify, that's out of 50?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sadly. I think another concerning issue is that if you look at education graduation rates for African Americans, the state is dead last. We're 50th. And if we are not making the connection between education disparities and employment disparities, then we're missing the boat. I think that nonprofits that you see in the room today and many of our very talented colleagues in the community are realizing that 70% of the jobs in today's and tomorrow's workforce require post-secondary education. And so we're intentionally working closely with people who have had limited education or lower attainment, educational attainment, or a limited work history, or a lot of other various barriers to employment. We're creating career pathway programs where we're partnering in customized training and helping people realize that they can be successful in that environment, and that earning a couple of credentials as they're graduating from a career pathway program is really the door open to say, I can succeed in a 2-year degree in college and something I can work towards. I don't want to be Pollyannish about this. We've got a lot of work to do, and as our colleagues at Twin Cities Rise mentioned, the barriers that we're seeing coming through our doors are more extreme. We're also looking at underemployed individuals who are making $9.50 an hour and trying to ensure that we offer a range of training programs so that people can take evening or weekend courses so they can upskill and get that job that turns into a career and actually supports their family, puts a roof over their head, food on the table, and actually the realization of their dreams and a stable family future.
Thank you.
It's a big question. I think we're making some progress.
So, Councilmember Gordon, I wanted to note that we had initially thought maybe we could have an overall larger presentation about the workforce work that we're doing. We've transitioned away from just simply giving grants to nonprofits to have an outcome that educates somebody to these very specific career pathways. We used to have 3, now we have 8. So we're really kind of breaking it down. This group, manufacturing, IT, and call center, are exactly the kinds of jobs that these organizations can train individual people one at a time. And this has been a shift. Mr. Brinda's been pushing it over a long period of time. Ms. Barhelgen has embraced the idea as well. And I think this is the direction we're going. Ms. Barhelgen couldn't be here today, so we decided to do this overview with these three organizations, but we are going to have a larger workforce overview in committee. Councilmember Ellison and I talked about it in agenda setting last, sometime in the next couple of months. Everyone wants to talk about licenses, and they kind of have to come in front of us, and all the big economic development picture things everyone is interested in talking about, but this is kind of the nuts and bolts of economic development, employment. And we have this stellar staff of people who manage the people in the community who do this work. Our staff's not doing this work, they'll be the first to tell you that. They're relying on passionate people in the community to do the work, and we want to hear from them and get a sense of what they're doing. So with the committee's indulgence, we will bring this up as a longer, more thorough conversation about what's happening in the community. But I loved your question. I also want to note, before Councilmember Ellison's motion is taken up, that I serve on the Board of Jewish Family and Children's Services, and primarily because I was so impressed with the work they were doing over all the years I served on the council. And I was just reelected to my second term, so I've been doing this for just only 3 years, and I won't be voting on this grant as a result of that today, to ensure that there's no perception of a conflict of interest. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, on Councilmember Ellison's motion to approve these grants, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I want to thank you and Mr. Brinda and the whole team, all of the work from all of these staff, from all these great organizations. Thank you for being here today. Seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.